Hey, welcome to Violent Minds, another amazing episode. I'm your resident private dick, Mark Chauppetta.
And Dr. Keith Ablow, your resident forensic psychiatrist here at Violent Minds World Headquarters. Well, we have two headquarters, which is why we're doing this funky thing that everyone can do now with a portal, like Zoom or whatever, right? But
yeah,
it's the new world order.
You're kind of like the Manhattan office, and I'm in the slums, so to speak. So,
kind of like that. You know what somebody should tell people who use this technology now? Now, these are backgrounds. These are real. First of all, nobody would ever invent what you got back there going on. Okay. They might invent this. Okay. But not that. But, it's funny because I'll be talking to people on Zoom and like they move and like their ear falls off.
Yeah.
Right. Because they've got one of those fake backgrounds.
Yeah.
I think it's psychologically kind of arresting because you're like, wait, am I talking to a human? Or is this like a cartoon character, which is, of course, part of the trouble with technology. It dehumanizes. And there's a tiny example for our audience of the way technology dehumanizes people.
Yes. And, I learned a long time ago how to dress a set. So that's why you're looking at the magic behind you. Do you notice? Now, this is like Where's Waldo, but do you notice something different in this picture from previous shows that's showing up?
Did you get a chin-up bar, or was that there?
Yeah, that's actually, you're right. That's a pull-up bar.
A pull-up bar. Is that new?
It was on another area of my office, so it's got a dip.
Okay, that's not
scene in a pull-up.
Yeah. Well, it kind of if you move just right, it kind of exits the side of your head. But no, it's good. It's really good. Do you use it a lot?
You know what? Back during the not a lot. I hang clothes on it, but back during the beginning of the pandemic, I had dressed my office, with a gym, and was working out here when gyms were closed. So it came in here. I mean, I have 2,000 square feet of open space here, so I could run laps in my office.
You're like a king. You're like a king. 2,000 square feet of open space.
Yeah, it's just a big man cave. You can't even, there's a whole area behind me, and it's and the rents here in the city of Brockton are cheap, and it's it's
amazing.
Yeah, my wife basically loves this office because I can get all my shit out of my house where we live. And
great.
I have
2,000 square feet. I mean, you're a king.
Right. So what's been going, I can tell you what's going on in my world, but we haven't done a show in a week or two. What's been going on in your world? Are you surviving everything? Are you ready?
Or the same? Yeah, it's more life coaching, which is what I do, and consulting. I'm more than surviving. I'm like, strong as a bull moose, as Theodore Roosevelt said. So more than surviving, as I know you are with your T-shirt saying you are the war to survive a war. Can you kind of do that? You know how I like looking at you that way.
Well, why am
you going to become more? I love that.
Yeah, John Rambo. Obviously, I'm obsessed with Sly Stallone. Well, you may have seen it on social media, but what I went out and did last week is I went out and got a new tattoo. Did you see that?
I saw reference to it, and and so it's a flag.
It's an American flag. And then it has like a scroll, and it says, "For those I love, I will sacrifice."
I love it. It's great.
Meaning my family,
yes,
and my country. You don't have to be in the military or a military veteran to sacrifice, for your country, especially in today's fucked up world that we live in. So yeah, it was it's just something I kind of did on a whim, and it's real.
It's great.
You have any tattoos?
I do.
Yeah, they hurt.
Yeah, I think it was in the newspaper. Some of the bad headlines about me in the Boston Globe referenced like I must be a serial killer because I have tattoos and I'm a shrink.
Tramp stamp?
No, I don't have a tramp stamp, but I've got great stories about that for another time. Yeah, no, I don't. No, but I do have on one of my what is that part of your body? Not your biceps, your deltoid.
your trapezoid, your deltoid. Your delts are right. Your delts are in the front.
Deltoid. On my deltoid, it says restitutio, which was a concept from the Greeks and Latins, that in order to restore a person, you weren't just, if you took $100 unfairly from them, giving them back the 100 wasn't enough. You had to restore them to the way they were before you broke their trust. So the work I do is to restore people to everything, to the extent that you can, everything God intended for them, which is the restitutio concept. So I try to remind myself it's on my shoulder. Then I have some other ones.
You know what I find that, and I'm not trying to blow your head up at all, but you know what I find more appealing about you and your posts and that what you put out there and your blogs and all the great stories that you write and everything. Now,
that's nice. What do you
what I find more appealing now, and I think people should find more appealing now, is that, you know, you've gone through a lot. You've been knocked down and you're building yourself back up. So I think often, you know, I've struggled in life taking advice from people that actually haven't, you know, been through the grind. And you know what, you've been through the grind. Maybe in the beginning of your career, you weren't necessarily as much, but you've been through a lot the last few years. And I think that creates a whole different level to who you are as a person and the advice that you're giving to people, because you're a walking example of something that's rebounding from it. So
I am a billboard for that. It's like every quote that speaks to that, like I'm galvanized to. I saw one from Charles Bukowski today that said, "What matters is how you walk through the fire." Wow.
Yeah.
So great. It's so true. Every fire is an opportunity to show how you can walk through it. That's what these fires are.
I mean, with all your fame and all your accomplishments, do you often now look back and reflect and say, well, maybe, you know, I was a different person back then and you're much deeper now?
Yeah, it was way better. It was way better. Now just
I'm not talking your checkbook.
The 92 employees, the set at Rockefeller Center. It was glorious. It was my imperial phase that I really miss. No, but honestly, everything that you go through makes you stronger. And if you allow yourself to stay open to it, it makes you more empathetic, right? Because and that's why I know we're going to talk about Whoopi Goldberg, among other things. You know, and the crazy stuff she said about the Holocaust not being about race, right? But even when I hear about something like that, and I'm like, oh, okay, so she's getting laid off for a couple of weeks, or maybe she even gets fired at some point. I'm like, really, you know, do we want to go to war with everybody who misspeaks?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, what's that?
I'm listening. At the same time, I'm looking at myself, and I'm saying that I get really bad posture. Like, one side slopes down, and I'm trying to lift up my other shoulder to make myself. Do I need to put like something under one of my ass cheeks on my seat, or is my floor unbalanced?
Not the person to ask about your ass cheeks, but we happen to be like miles from the best physical therapist in the world, who's also an ergonomics expert, Kathy Fairbend. Anybody with any trouble, really, she's not a paid sponsor because we don't have those because we're not big enough yet. But Kathy Fairbend is an incredible physical therapist who works with people all over the world by Zoom, now that there's Zoom. So anyhow.
So she can correct my my posture. So, all right. So we're going to get into a little bit about what's going on in the world right now. But one thing that I heard actually on another show this morning when I was driving into the office, into my man cave, was something that I actually got a chuckle out of. And then I researched it and I saw it on the news, and there's a story going around about Georgetown law students demand space to cry. Like, so I guess a group of students have demanded a safe space to go cry with food delivered, and the university reimbursing them. Apparently it has something to do with them protesting a law professor who went out on administrative leave because he made a comment about Joe Biden's announcement for the nominee for the Supreme Court, and it upset a bunch of students. So now the faculty in the college is backing this, and they're
Yeah.
setting up a space for people to cry. Now,
Yeah.
is that fucked up or am I fucked up?
Fucked up is not in our diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, which,
Okay.
would be the formal guidebook. But let me tell you what's happening. Let's
Yeah.
get underneath the psychological covers with the Georgetown law students.
Yes.
Basically, what are they asking for? They're asking to return to being children. It's a plea. They don't want to be adults. They're saying, can I go to my room and cry? What are you, 7, 8?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were 7 or 8, we'd say, hey, honey, what's wrong? Right? Like, you want to go to your room to cry, or we'd say, go to your room, and they'd cry. They've got it all mixed up in their minds. But this desire to return to childhood, where can you imagine counselors, barristers, people who are going to defend others saying, we need a space to cry? Well, how are you going to cry if you're defending somebody accused of murder? Okay. Right. And someone's unkind to you. Maybe the judge yells at you. This is what we're creating, a culture that isn't worthy. How can we possibly allow these losers to instruct us, to represent us? No, none of them should graduate. You know what I would do if I were dean of Georgetown Law School? I would look at that list. And say, who signed the letter? Okay, these people are no longer students here.
Right.
Because Georgetown is not going to turn out losers.
Yeah, it's a prestigious law school. These are people that are going to be
great law school.
Yeah, these are young men and women, some of the brightest, on the land, that are going to be trying some really severe. What are they going to do when they're in a court of law? Take a break to go into another room and shed a tear?
Well, we rely on the Georgetown School of Law in order to turn out folks some of whom might want to be constitutional lawyers.
Right.
Now, I mean, you need to be able to speak your mind, not cry and not speak. Just say what's bothering you. You're upset. You're upset with what happened here at the law school. Why don't we debate that? Wouldn't that be more instructive than we're going to create a place for you to cry?
That would be very constructive, and you can make it into a lesson plan, and you can make it into some real life situations that they're going to be litigating as they get, when they graduate and go on to practice law.
Absolutely.
But you touched on one thing, because I was kind of mocking them, and then when I asked you about it, you kind of described me in a sense. Now, I don't go into rooms. I don't
like it when you say you touched on one thing and then you say you described me. Well, it feels too intimate. I have never. Yeah, you touched me and then. Okay, but go on.
We can be intimate through
all right, let's go.
Cyberspace. No, but I also, I don't need a crying room. I shed my tears in other ways, but I also do often question my own psyche when it comes to wanting to be a child again.
Sure. Well, that's interesting. Well, it's a universal, really, pull. There's gravitational pull toward that time, because whether it was true or not, every one of us imagined we were loved. Right now, it may not have been true for a lot of people, but it's a time when people say, I was quote unquote taken care of. Some people not very well. But, you fell down. Generally, you got picked up. When you're a kid, you don't have to be in control as much. If you cry, people are like, okay. And I'm a big fan of expressing one's emotions. So that's good. I just think that as an adult, if you get tears in your eyes, you could still have sort of a supervising ego where you say, what you just said, literally, it's bringing tears to my eyes. Let me tell you why. But for you, why do you feel this pull back to childhood?
Well, I probably self-diagnosed myself, and I have a pretty good grasp on who I am. And it kind of goes back to my obsession with old TV shows and old toys in simpler times. And
yes,
and times I have a pretty a pretty serious life with my children and with disease and all that. So maybe part of that, that's the reason that's kind of pulling me back to a time where I don't have to, always be, so responsible,
Yeah, sure. Well, are there ways? So yeah, because you have to confront, and most people who know you know, or everyone who knows you knows your kids are struggling with muscular dystrophy,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And you've been a hero in their lives. You've been a hero in terms of getting the word out about that disorder as well.
Yeah.
So are there ways in which you can take the pressure off, sort of not have to be the source of strength at all times? It wouldn't necessarily be with the MMA stuff you do, which is also geared up for strength.
Yes.
What do you do in order to decompress and in order to feel like, look, for now, I don't have to be Superman. I don't have to be Rambo. I don't have to be Sly Stallone. What do you do? Do you meditate? What?
No, I mean, it's all about moments. I mean, I do use jujitsu, not MMA. MMA is more mixed martial arts, which is more physical and more, the fighting aspect of it. I do use mixed martial arts. I use my group of friends that I see 2 or 3 mornings a week. I need to have some sort of a safety blanket in my head that I know my sons who live independently are safe in order for me to kind of let myself go. So I use jujitsu. I use 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there on my lazy boy to have a quick little deep nap when I know that there's a caretaker with them. So I mean,
well,
for me, life's about moments. Like I don't do it all at once, but I have little bursts, and like it's how I work as well, Doc. Like I'll sit here sometimes and I'll daydream for 40 minutes and I'll just surf the net or look at this, and then I'll do my work, but I'll do my work in remarkable pace.
Yeah, I get that. And so I get the lazy boy. I think the life coaching couch up in my office, the life coaching couch might be the better perch for you, because rather than having folks go and just cry it out, which is whatever it is, it's better to talk it out, right? So you have no doubt unspoken thoughts and feelings about, man, this is not easy. Now it's tough to say that for a number of reasons. Number one, it's harder for your kids, and you know that. So you're reticent to say, and secondly, the kids are talented videographers, so they're editing this show. So right. So there's that reality. They're going to listen to anything we say. They're heroic. So one of the other binds you're in is, man, how do I, admit the stress I'm under when it's so much more difficult for them. But you should be on the life coaching couch saying, dude, like really, it's like Mr. Incredible in the movie.
Yeah.
Has this monologue where he's like, do I have to keep saving everyone? They keep unsaving themselves.
What gives me that sense of relief is the fact that I feel vindicated. Well, I wouldn't say vindicated, but I feel rewarded as a parent that I've raised all my children, specifically my twins, to live a certain way, and seeing them living independently and seeing them thriving with a disability is good. And they're really super cool. Like I'm always texting them, everything okay, guys? Everything okay? Like it's 8:33 in the morning right now. I'm getting ready to I'll send my text at 9 o'clock, make sure they're okay. Then I can go, they have staff, but and they'll text me, everything's fine, Dad. Stop worrying. They worry about me as much as I worry about them.
I get it, but this is by way of disclaimer. I mean, that you're living a life in which it's like so many people, where we have to wear armor, right? But off air, you could call someone like me, you know, and go on the metaphorical life coaching couch and say, hey, just so you know, man, I'm tired.
Keith, we're doing a podcast called Violent Minds. I'm getting this shit for free. You're a shrink, and I just got 30 minutes of free advice. Why am I going to come?
There you go. There you go. But that is really the function of good psychotherapists, good coaches, is to basically say, look, let's just dispense with all denial, all defenses.
All right, enough crying. So
I'll tell you one thing. I had this gifted psychiatrist. I went to a psychiatrist because, of course, any decent psychiatrist should go see a psychiatrist. Yes. I was in my 30s already, and I was getting, you know, harassed by the other residents in psychiatry. Why won't you go? Why won't you go? I could have said, well, it's because I'm so screwed up, but I didn't, because I didn't have that insight. So I went to James Mann in Newton, Mass, this esteemed, like 5 foot tall, he was like this big, psychiatrist, 80 years old. And he said, what are you doing here? And I went through this and this and this. I thought I told him. And he said, he interrupted me. He said, do you ever get the feeling as you're speaking that you're completely full of crap? And I said,
that's funny, because we all think that.
I said, I do sometimes. And he said, well, here's the thing, Keith. It's your time, it's your money, and it's your life. And if you want to waste all three, I'll sit here with you. Wow. Yeah. That was a great opening salvo in the war to let me put my hair down. And I left it in his office, apparently.
Yeah. Isn't that on your pamphlets, though, that saying?
Which one? Yeah, it should be. It should be. He was a master, and he allowed me to be me for that hour in the office. And anyhow, that's the gift of psychotherapy or coaching or counseling.
You're good at what you do. And, you know, it's funny, before we get in, I want to talk a little bit about Howard Stern, who I've been on the show, and you've been on the show numerous times. But as I was driving my son to school today, my youngest son, 16, Max, so he's got a big play coming up tomorrow. He's acting.
Oh, great.
And he's playing a Mozart piece. It's kind of a variety show. And he's you know, all my children are talented, but he's the acting one. And, you know, I'm like, we usually stop at, I drive him to school, and we usually stop, grab coffee, and he'll grab a donut or a bagel or something. And he's like, I'm sick to my stomach today, Dad. I don't want to, I can't really eat. And, you know, and every time he has a big play coming up or something, he gets that anxiety and he gets sick to his stomach. So, you know, I try to be the modern day parent, not the parent from back when we were growing up, and my old man would have said, you know what, suck it up.
No, suck it up won't do anything. Yeah.
So I try to explain to him that, you know, that nerves and anxiety is a good thing. You know, and in that, you know, you got to fight. You got to sit there and fight with yourself inside your head, and, you know, just kind of take some short breaths, breathe through your nose, and, you know, in through your mouth, you know, and just, you know, and just tell yourself that this is normal, this is natural, and you're gonna do great. And, you know, so I try to give him that advice, and he's like, thanks, I feel better. And then I try to play you. I've been hanging around you too much.
Careful.
You know, and then, you know, then you stop playing the father role. And I'm like, well, I know this has to do with your play, because I see the patterns every time that you have a play. You get these nerves and you get nauseous. I go, there's no difference.
Right.
I go, I get those feelings when still at 52 years old, before I'm getting ready to testify in a court of law. You just get.
Well, let me help. I'll help.
Yes.
A couple of things. One is this breathing technique. Yes. So for anybody who's watching us now, here's a clinical pearl. They're all different ones, but one of them is 6-2-8.
Yep.
So if you inhale for 6 seconds, hold it for 2, and then exhale for 8 seconds.
Yep.
So 6-2-8, 6-2-8. Your pulse goes down, your mind steadies. It's interesting. It's basically using the breath to combat anxiety. Other people do box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, holding it for 4, and then letting it out for 4. I kind of like this 6-2-8 thing. But here's the narrative way of defeating anxiety. So basically your son, it's Max, right?
Yep.
So your son or you, when you're going to perform, you're feeling potentially judged as though you need to meet a certain standard, and it's getting you nervous. You can flip your mind into thinking, I'm there and these folks are giving me their time. I'm going to give them the best I can give them in order to reward them for their time. Because when I would give a speech, I'd feel exactly the same thing. And then I flipped it into, you know, if we're going to be here for an hour, I'm going to make sure they leave the room changed.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, then you're like, you're too busy. You're too focused on, I'm going to play my game. And I'm going to distinguish myself in a way during that play or that movie or that hour as a speaker. You're too busy to think about being judged because you're just deploying your gifts.
Right.
And that's it. And so that kind of does, for me at least, that was like, look, I'm not holding a shield, I'm holding a sword. I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I told him, I said, you know, you're only there to impress yourself and do the best that you can do for yourself, you know, and you know, you're there to do a good job, but you don't, the expectations only kind of lie within yourself. You know that you've studied, you know your lines, you know this, and then getting up there and just walking on the stage is, that's the battle right there.
It's a whole different mindset. If you can say, you know what, my goal is to leave a few people in this audience saying, wow, I feel that.
I'll send you the video of, he's doing a Mozart piece. It's pretty long.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's first time singing, and first time singing ever. I've never even heard him sing.
Yeah,
I have anxiety because everything he's ever done theatrically, he's excelled, and he's exceeded any expectations. The singing part, I'm a little nervous about. So
now see.
Is he William Hung, or is he, you know, or is he, you know, Paul McCartney? Who is he?
Right. You want the best for your child, and you want him to feel at one with himself using his talents. Now, this is, by the way, a good segue to the Howard Stern thing, because Howard and I got along just great. Absolutely. Until I went on a show and I said, I don't think folks should watch Chaz Bono on Dancing with the Stars. Don't have your kids watch, I said. And why did I say that? I said, because I feared that it could shake loose those tomboys who might watch, who might think to themselves, wait a second, maybe I'm a boy. Look at how they're applauding Chaz, who transitioned after all, from being female to being male. Of course he didn't, because you can't transition from being female to being male. You can change your anatomy, you can change the way you look and speak, but you can't change your DNA. You can't
or how you think, but you can't change the.
To me, you know, I can say I'm a CIA agent. I'm not.
Right.
I can assert it. I can say I hang out with other CIA agents. Every molecule in my self-concept is that of a double agent, CIA agent working, you know, the Iron Curtain.
So that happened on the air with him, and that didn't go over well.
He said, you know, he always mispronounced my name. So he said, you know, Dr. Ablow, are you actually saying that people can be turned transgender by watching Chaz Bono? I said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is basically like if you deify somebody who is lost, I would say, as not found, but lost. See, that's the debate. And I took so much heat for this. I you know, in a way, I was crucified for saying it, right? But the bottom line is, I don't think that you found yourself when you think that you're not the gender that you were born. I don't think that. I think you're lost. That was the last time he had me on the show.
And how many appearances had you made prior to that? You were on for years, right?
No, I mean, I might have been on 10 times for years. Yeah. I mean, you don't go on every day. I wasn't a regular. So Yeah, and I had, plumbed the depths of Howard's own psyche as he was, trying to make his relationship with Beth, his wife, work. And of course, I don't think it was ever on the edge of not working, but it needed some refinements. But yeah, so anyhow, I think he's become, or maybe not become, he's just made himself known to be extraordinarily, quote, liberal, meaning not thinking.
Right. And that's one of the theories out there. And I think Jackie, the joke man, and maybe, I'm not sure, one of the other, maybe Stuttering John or someone was quoted saying that maybe he's always, because his parents, as we know from watching Private Parts and from being a fan, being a mega fan like I was, were extremely liberal. So maybe he was always,
I'm sure,
that way, and he just was, so it was an easy transition for him now to kind of go back into that world now that he's Howie Hamptons. But I mean, I went on the show in 2011. He's been on Sirius, I think, for 14 years now. The show has flipped the script. He's lost all his original Stern fans. He made a living off of mocking everyone. And some would say exploiting people.
Some would say that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between, was he exploiting the so-called whack pack, which are the less fortunate people that he would have on, or was he helping them financially, which I believe he was. But yeah, he's totally changed, and it's I can't listen to him anymore, and he's become a COVID freak. So I read somewhere that recently he reached out to Meatloaf's family.
Okay.
Try to get them to come out in the media to advocate for vaccines, only assuming that, and not having any information to back it up, and it hasn't even been reported in the media yet how Meatloaf died, only assuming that he may have died from complications from COVID. And Meatloaf was a known, freedom fighter. He was someone that believed in choices and not being forced to do things. So that door was probably shut pretty quickly on his in his face.
Well, maybe I should be back in touch with Gary Delabate, who always, did the booking for Howard, in order to come on and more debate Howard than make nice to him, because we got along so great, right? But clearly we have these elements that would be about which we would be in diametric opposition, like the transgender thing, because like the vaccines, I'm not a vaccine enemy. Okay, what I'm an enemy of is trying to force things on people. And if the state is going to use a pandemic to create another pandemic, which is a pandemic of fear and a willingness to cave and simply deny everything about yourself and your own ability to reason and substitute the state's thinking, that's a worse pandemic than COVID.
Yes.
We might as well all be dead if we're going to have them in our heads dictating every decision we make.
Well, the collateral damage from these last 2 years is growing.
We don't even know the collateral damage. I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. I got vaccinated, but I did it with this knowledge. Do I know what it means to have mRNA injected in my body? I have no idea. It seems to me it might mean that I don't get as sick from COVID. It looks like the data looks that way. Does it mean that I won't have other issues physically in the future? It does not mean that. If I were going to reproduce, would I worry whether it might impact my offspring? Of course I would worry. This is a worldwide experiment. We've never injected mRNA into billions of people. We're going to find out what happens. When people get the vaccine, they should be signing something saying, I understand it's experimental. They are essentially signing experimental. I don't know what this means, but I hope it means I don't die from COVID, especially if I'm overweight or infirm, which are the people who generally die from COVID.
Right. So so the show is completely sanitized now. just not what it used to be. And, and we could get into a whole nother area about Stern when it comes to the hypocrisy of the media and them cutting him slack now for things he did in the past because he's crossed over into the liberal world and he's now all of a sudden protected. But, I'm more interested in the well-documented part of Howard, which he had spoke about every day for decades, is his mental health. And I mean, it's that he was extremely obsessive compulsive and, anxiety. So maybe something like this pandemic or this virus kind of put him over the top,
the edge. Maybe so. I think he always had these ideas. And if, it's better to know people than not. I think he's an incredible superstar. He's so talented. He's so smart. He has the capacity for such depth and feeling, right? I brought him to tears on the show.
You in studio with him or were you on the radio?
Both.
Both? No.
Both, yeah.
At Sirius or the old station?
At Sirius.
Oh, yeah, so you and I sat on the same couch?
Indeed, we did. That's what I consider to be the biggest honor, not being on Stern, but in fact, sitting where you were sitting. And now look at us. We're sitting in our homes doing this broadcast instead of being on talking to millions and millions of people with Howard Stern. But that's okay. And frankly, if Howard and I were talking, we wouldn't be talking at this volume. We'd end up yelling, I think, because the bottom line is, turns out, I don't favor people. I won't say I don't like them. I don't favor people, and I vehemently oppose people, as I know you do, who are doing things to erode the self of others, right? So it seems like the liberals, what they're liberal about is the notion that why should we care if people have no anchor anymore? You don't need an anchor. The state is your anchor. Yes. You don't need God. You don't need patriotism. You don't need to know what gender you are. You may as well take years of your life trying to figure that out. You don't need clarity of thought. Just get high all the time. Yeah. This is their platform. Okay. And they're going to lose so big in the next election cycle that their heads will spin. Yes. Because in the end, the truth always wins. Yeah. Right. So you can only be a moron. Well, I'd see, there I go, calling names. You can only be wrong-minded for so long. Yeah. And it's, for me, it's more about the obvious double standards, that I just see on a daily basis. And I try to be objective. I try to look at both sides of everything. And yes, you do. Just the Joe Rogan, caboclo that's out there right now. And Neil Young. It's a podcast. Screw Neil Young. Yes, yeah, Neil. Well, now Crosby, Stills, and Nash have followed, so they got the whole damn band. Might as well have them all come out as what they are. These are a bunch of hippies from the '60s that wrote about about freedom and yeah. I mean, but Rogan does a service to people. Rogan is a professional listener. He brings people on from every side and he lets them talk and he asks them questions like an inquisitive, interested person would do. He's not trying to change the narrative. He's not trying to manipulate people. If you're stupid enough to be persuaded by Joe Rogan when it comes to a medical decision, then shame on you. Go to your own damn doctor. Joe Rogan he's high half the time on the show. He believes in aliens. It's entertainment. I mean, yeah, well, sure. I mean, and these are things about, and we've lost this. Yes. These are things about which reasonable people can disagree. Right. That's where the state doesn't get it. Don't tell me to get vaccinated. Educate me if you think that that's the path. But other people like Joe Rogan and others, and doctors, lots of doctors, are going to educate people in the other direction. Say, make your own decision. Right. That's why I love Trump's thing.
Right. He's not bringing people
right
on.
to the side.
Yeah, right. These doctors like Robert Malone, this guy isn't a crackpot. This guy is a world-renowned, scientist. All right. So if you have someone that has an opposing view, then instead of trying to cancel something or tweet something, go on and use your First Amendment right and voice your opinion.
Absolutely.
Or go on together and argue about it. I mean, you being a Jewish male, and
yes,
the whole Whoopi Goldberg thing, and the ignorance and the double standards that that come with her. Now you're aware of what.
Yeah, I know we're going there, but first I want to
Yes.
do this.
Yes.
I clearly did not finish my psychotherapy with Howard Stern.
Oh, hey, go ahead. Yes. Well, yeah.
So I want to say this to Howard
Yes.
via our broadcast.
Yes.
I'm not done with your therapy, okay? Or your coaching. I need you on my life coaching couch, Howard, because we didn't finish our work because you're not making sense, okay? So maybe I'll call Gary Delabat. They'll never take me up on it because he's never going to want to face true inquiry and analysis. But if he wants to, I'm here to finish my work with Howard Stern, which I thought was done, but clearly not, to try to make him reflective, rational, and himself, because he'd like to be the state apparently now. He wants to substitute the state for his own mind. Who would have thought? Can you imagine? He's like a symbol of how much we've lost. Howard Stern, who was irreverent, who would say anything, now wants people to parrot a party line. How pathetic is that?
Wow. That's
yeah. Now on to Whoopi Goldberg.
I mean, you know what? And let's get Gary Delabate on, or let's get Artie Lang on if we can.
Artie Lang. I like Artie Lang. Artie Lang's a real guy. I mean, he's gone through, talk about going through things. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this. Artie Lang told me a story I'll share with everybody. He said to his mother, listen, I think I'm going to try to be a comedian. And she looked at him and said, "You're not even funny." Isn't that great? I love that. And talk about not supportive.
He is funny, but I did see him one year at Faneuil Hall, and it was during his Faneuil Hall in Boston. It was during his I guess drug alcoholic days, and there were a lot of them. He was incoherent on the stage. There were a lot of unhappy campers, and when I had gone on the Stern show in 2011, I believe that's around the time that they removed him from the show because of his heroin addiction. And he obviously inflicted some damage to himself.
That's why insight and we talked about, right, that you gotta be on the life coaching couch or the counselor's couch or the psychotherapist's couch, because those are the times where you let your hair down and you really rip your chest open and you say who you are. Because I remember when I talked to Artie Lang on the show the first time, I said, what's fueling this trouble that you're having? What's fueling it, do you think? He said, "Doc, I don't know. I mean, my whole life has been perfect. I mean, right, even when my dad fell off the roof and was a quad." I'm like, well, wait a second. What?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the lingo you use now, quadriplegic, whatever it is. But his dad fell off the roof and was then like paralyzed and spent his life, unable to move. And Artie's like, well, then he couldn't hit me. I said, look, I get it, and you're funny, dude. You're funny, but that's not going to get us where we need to go, because being funny, it's not working.
See, Artie didn't even realize that he was downplaying that happening to his father, and you're sitting there licking your chops saying,
I'm like, dude, you're going to have to use heroin more because, right? Because you won't do it. Do it with me. Rip your chest open, bleed. If people would bleed more, they wouldn't inject as much.
Well, I think we're going to have to do another show.
Howard Stern.
I heard you call out Howard Stern, and maybe we can get
I'll
that.
reduce him to his molecular structure inside of 20 minutes.
Say that
Okay, and then
again?
I'll re-
Say that
I'll
again?
reduce him to his molecular structure inside of 20 minutes, and I'll reassemble him as a better man. But he's got to meet me. Okay, I'm calling him out.
All right.
Exactly.
So what we're doing is now this is acting. This is a script. So now I want you to say that again. But now you have to say, I'm going to reduce who to his. So go ahead, take two.
I'll reduce Howard Stern to his molecular structure inside of 20 minutes and put him back together as a better human being, if he'll meet me.
Perfect. Perfect. On that
And
note,
McGregor's next. I'll see him on the canvas. No, just kidding.
Conor McGregor, well, he needs a little help too. So being a Jewish man, Whoopi Goldberg, and obviously her comments were somewhat ignorant. So she's basically arguing that the Holocaust wasn't about race, that it was about man's inhumanity towards man. She was just recently suspended, for 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit torn on that part of it because, I don't want to say, oh, she should be fired, because that kind of comes across somewhat hypocritical because everyone's just firing everyone.
Everyone's firing everyone, and people, they're falling all over themselves to fire the other side.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's like, look, we go right back to this idea. Do you need a room to cry at Georgetown Law School, or would you like to put forward an argument, a legal argument to support your ideas? You're on The View. You people are journalists. Challenge her, have them bring on guests, have her show some courage, bring on a survivor from the Holocaust. I don't need her fired. Who cares if she's fired or suspended? Why suspend somebody for being stupid and saying the wrong thing? You used to, in America, be able to say, Whoopi, you're being an idiot. You're making no sense. This is embarrassing. Bring on a Holocaust survivor and let that person debate Whoopi Goldberg. That's the way America was built, not with saying, now you got to go home for 2 weeks, Whoopi, and shut up.
Right. Now everyone's saying, oh, geez, they canceled Roseanne Barr's show for making a joke, or they fired Piers Morgan for defending Sharon Osbourne, who was fired, and everyone's just getting fired and left and right. So if you want to break it down that way, there's hypocrisy as far as the punishment goes, but there should just be no punishment. It should be exactly what you said. Bring people on, debate them, and embarrass them, on a public platform.
And find out, see, you know what we don't get to find out? We don't get to find out the truth.
Right.
We just send her home. What we need to find out is, look, Whoopi, a couple of things, okay? Number one, what is it about the notion that this was a war against Jewish people that offends you or that you can't internalize? We got to ask her.
All right, I'm pausing for a second, playing director. All right, take two. Dr. Keith Ablow, what would you like to say to Whoopi Goldberg? And are you going to get Whoopi Goldberg and Howard Stern in the same room together, or is one going to be in the waiting room? So what do you say?
Let's do individual sessions. I would say to Whoopi Goldberg, two questions. One is, what is it about the notion, the obvious notion, that the Holocaust was a war against the Jewish people and that this was an issue of race? What about that is hard for you to accept? Is it something about your color? Is it something about your religion? What is it? Let's find out what she has to say about that from her heart. Secondly, I would say, Whoopi, you're killing yourself with the eating. No, I would. I mean, and I know I get myself in trouble with this all the time, but I don't understand. If she were drunk all the time, somebody who cared about her would say, listen, you're drunk all the time. We got to get you some help.
Yeah.
Now here she is. She's using the cane. Yeah. She's wearing a tent as clothing. Okay. I'll be the one to take the heat and say, listen, honey, we got to figure out why you're killing yourself with a drug called food. Okay. It may be connected to why you can't accept other truths, like the fact that people do hate sometimes. Terrible thing. They hate and kill millions of people who don't share their religious beliefs or who they feel are somehow a plague on humanity.
Yes.
Maybe there's some connection, but it should be obvious that the Holocaust was about Jewish people, Whoopi. And when you look in the mirror, it should be obvious you got to diet. Okay, you're in denial.
Well, first of all, Whoopi Goldberg is a comedian, so she's lost sight of that. And quick Whoopi Goldberg story. I was walking out of the Stones concert. Oh God, so Max is 16. So probably 16 and a half years ago, because I was with Max's mother and she was pregnant with Max. And we were crossing the street and we almost got like taken out by a tinted black SUV that was kind of screwing down Lansdowne Street a little bit too fast. And we kind of had to step back. And then all of a sudden the back window goes down and Whoopi Goldberg sticks her head up and says, sorry.
Well, that's a human moment. And that's, that's a beautiful moment. I like that. That shows her humanity, her ability to be funny and human and caring. I don't want her suspended. I want to heal her.
I don't think
might call out to Whoopi, let me heal you.
I don't think the network was I think the network could be slightly evil when it comes. My conspiracy theory is that they probably weren't going to suspend her. They only suspended her for 2 weeks as a ratings bump, because when she comes back in 2 weeks.
Well, plus it's the old strategy. Roger Ailes, who was a mentor of mine and a very wonderful man to me at Fox News, who started Fox News, when I commented on another person's weight, and that got me in hot water, he said, you got to take 2 weeks off. I said, what? I said, why? He said, because it's just what you do strategically. If you disappear, people forget about you. They forget about the issue. Okay. And then we have you come back. Simple. Okay. And that's what they're doing with her. It's like, you know what? If Whoopi's not here, people have very short memories. They won't remember, believe it or not. And the cry from the Holocaust, never forget. Right. That's Yad Vashem. Never forget. Okay.
They're not forgetting this one.
Well, no, we'll see, because after all, my people, the Jewish people, they're for gun control. They're voting Democrat. It's as though they forget the Holocaust, where they collected everyone's guns. Okay. And that should have been a sign. Okay, game on. You want my gun? Come get it. Okay. Because I'm not getting on any train, buddy.
On that note, we got to wrap up the show. I want everyone to check out violentminds.com, the website that my son built. And we have a new logo that's going to be premiering on that soon. And check out Dr. Keith Ablow. His links are all over the website. Check out myself if you want to hire me for an investigation. By all means, I'll certainly help you out or give you a consult. And yeah, man, hopefully Howard hears this. So hopefully.
See, you know what I just realized?
Yeah.
You investigate others. I investigate the people themselves.
Yes.
Right? We're two sides of the same coin.
Yes. And we're both bald.
Maybe we have to do yet another logo change. No, just kidding.
Who's your daddy?
What's that?
And who's your daddy?
Yeah, well, there you go.
I'm going to be 53 in April. You're 60. So like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I know. 60. I can't believe it. It's like, I've told friends of mine, you look at the paper. If people are 60 when they pass away, you're not like, oh God, he was so young. You're like, yeah, he was 60.
My mom,
you know what I mean? Like
my mom died at 55 when I was in my early 20s, and I thought that was old.
Right. Well,
now I'm almost 55. So, all right. On that note, I want to thank everyone for listening. Hopefully, we didn't piss too many people off, and if we did, I don't give a fuck.
We did.
Yes,
absolutely.
So, Keith, you hang on for a second, and everyone, peace out and have a great day.